Welcome to Tailings Talks. In this three-part series, we'll cover critical aspects of tailings management and explore the ongoing balance between safety, sustainability, and operational stability in the industry. Let's dive into today's conversation.
Hi, folks. My name is Ian McKechnie. I'm the lead product manager for Hatch's Tailings product. I'm here today with Raf, who will be exploring some topics relevant to our industry and speculating a bit about the future.
Thank you very much, Ian. I'm Davila. I'm the Global Director for the Tailings and Mine Closure Practice at Hatch. I sit at the office here in Mississauga, and we have several teams around the world working at Hatch for the mining industry mostly. Thank you for being with you today, and hopefully it goes well.
The shared intention of everyone in the industry to avoid tailings failures going forward. One of the major tools we have, more recent, is the introduction of the GSTM, which we're all aware of and participate in and are grateful for. How it's coming up on its first anniversary almost with completion of non-catastrophic risks. So, what's your, with your crystal ball, where are we sort of at and where are we going to end up with GSTM? What does a post GSTM will look like in about a year and a half?
Okay, you reminded me actually of something that my mentor, with whom I started my career, told me once about the future. You cannot have a crystal ball. You cannot guess about it. The only thing that you can do is prepare for it. And together with one aspect of my frustration in my own career is how to deal with such a despair of lack of information in many instances. I'm a geotechnical engineer. Coming up with data, it is quite difficult. It takes long time to actually understand a geotechnical context if you want to site a facility. These are systems. When I'm talking about systems, it's not, as you know by now, my point of view, it's just not limited to the storage facility. It is where, by the way, the dams fail. Okay? But where the system fails actually is with people, from my perspective. And people are involved in every step of the tailings management system, going from the water management to the dewatering, to the transport again, and yes, finally with the storage aspect and the geochemical containment even, if you will. So when I think about this matter of making sure that you are looking for the future, the best way that I feel that we can come up with that is putting people and the system working together, but the people have to be responsible enough to make sure that the company, all the changes through the development of a tailings facility. You have to have a system that actually serves as a repository of that trend of or that sequence of thoughts of how decisions were made, why were made, who made that, at what point in time were made, what happened after that. Was these decisions made to just plug the hole, or they were intended to keep the design intent in place? So those are the questions that they get lost.
Interesting. So planning ahead, if you're dealing GSTM now, you're looking to the future and getting ready. The GSTM has a fairly substantial portion regarding the building up of a site knowledge base. And my read of your statements is that it's not just building up your knowledge base. And if you're still doing that, you're actually behind and you better get going. It's get ready to use that knowledge base.
Of course. You have to go back because decisions were made in the past. And you have to review why they were made. It is many of these uncertainties of what to do with tailings facilities today inactive in the world, period, is because you didn't take care of that kind of information and you cannot access it anymore unless you start full campaigns for stability. And we're just talking about the storage aspect. We're not talking about the operational aspect. Okay, how to deal with that when you don't have information?
Yeah.
You're I think in that sense, operators are going through a huge risk.
Yeah, I can confirm anecdotally my own experience. The number of sites I've been to, where 2 days in, one of the senior folks rocks up and says, "Look, I was here 35 years ago when they built the facility," and they're just the person that people go to if they know something. Hey John, hey Jeremy, you were there. What happened? Oh yeah. We moved that dirt over there, and that was it. This reason. Oh, and yeah, the water turned red. The water turned orange that week because we did this thing. We forgot to turn that valve off. And like those people are retiring. Like they are not around forever, and they're on the move out. I think they're it's probably near 100% the sites I've been to that have had that person there, and they've been the rock that holds that process together. I think it's a real challenge for everyone in the industry to say, well, what happens when people aren't there? And you can't call them back on a really juicy retainer to say, can you give us 2 months or something? What happens when they're done? And you actually need to pass the torch.
And you are saying that because you are assuming that these guys have good memory.
That's true. That
Because
is a
and we know 2 out of 3 that the perception or the memory is a bit diffuse. I mean, and it can be short, it can be long-term memory, but you have some idea, but that doesn't translate into a fact.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we end up getting from, say, some geotechnical campaign later, it serves all those pieces of data serve, but it does not solve the issue at stake sometimes, and sometimes, in many times, I would have to say. All right.
In building a site knowledge base, from your perspective, what are the most commonly found gaps? There's probably 300 things you can throw into it. What are the pieces from your experience that are always missing?
The pieces that are missing is when you don't have anything. Let's start from a white canvas. Okay, then you have to construct everything from start. But maybe not the misses, but actually the hurdles. What hinders actually coming up with a system, sometimes in an operator's organization, is the communication between different groups. Sometimes they do not share the data for good reasons, whatever it is, but do not serve the purpose of actually achieving an efficient tailings management system. So bringing that up, all that data from different parts of an operator's organization, it is a difficult aspect. It is one of the key things. Now, the second is, okay, you have access to the data, and you have access to some of that information that was made upon that data. Can you actually rely on it? Can you fully rely on it? Can you actually make sure that it ties together between the different pieces of data? Why sometimes it doesn't jive, for example, on the storage of what's happening in an active TSF with what you're getting from information upstream of that TSF. I'm just talking about aspects like rheology, for example. Why things are happening here that do not jive with what I'm measuring here? What is sometimes the geological context? Then one other matter that is quite relevant is how blind some of the operators are with the physical risks. They do operate, as we said at the beginning of our conversation, with earthquakes and hurricanes in some parts of the world. And they feel that they can operate things and just upon luck sometimes. The diversion systems were not well planned enough. The berms that were ought to protect some of the facilities or some of the retaining structures were not constructed on time. The actual instrumentation was not really providing the best data. unless you put all that in clear, even in one single sheet of paper to the decision maker, to the tailings storage facility engineer, and the risk owner, and later to the risk uh, to the actual owner of the facility, which can be two different roles in an operator's organization.
Yeah, so we've covered off on a lot of topics. We've talked about the importance of getting the right data in. We've talked about the importance of ensuring stakeholders are plugged in and have consistent line of sight to what's going on and to have trust and confidence in that, both themselves and for external parties. We've talked about the role of AI. We've talked about the impact of future generations coming up. And I think we've left the audience with a understanding that the world is complex and probably not going to simplify anytime soon, but also the tools that are coming in can help out with that. It doesn't necessarily need to be bashing against the wall, but there are ways that we can navigate our way through this successfully, despite increasing complexity and challenges ahead. So trying to bring that full circle, what sort of system do we need? What are the aspects of it that are going to help us move forward that challenge successfully?
Yeah. While you were asking the question, you reminded me how I started. I started with Excels, and actually Lotus 1, 2, 3. What for else? Anyway, but at the time, the most difficult thing to understand, actually, I made a good a good start with doing that was water balances, and it was actually something that was not really well understood. And my mentor actually had started something in spreadsheets. But it was a time in the transition in which operations went from 1,000 tons per day to 3,000 tons per day of tailings production because of the throughput. And then we jumped to 50, 60, 80,000 tons per day. We operate today, and Hatch is responsible for some operations around the world of 400,000 tons per day in the copper industry. So what all that it comes to do here is that we are dealing in evolution of tools, yes. And we need to make sure that those tools are the right ones. The industry sometimes don't perceive them till they have their own experience on that. We've worked about the artificial intelligence, and where we are today at Hatch, at least, at our contribution, because it's not something that we were forced to do. We put together a task force. We invested heavily on something that the industry needs, which is the integrated tailings management system. We actually made sure that we had the minimum amount of components, from water management to instrumentation to GISTM to some other components that put together provided the minimum base that we perceived that it's necessary for an operator to actually do the job, minimize the risk, and make sure that the reporting is accurate and right for that. Making sure that we are attracting the talent, making sure that we are keeping, in the industry, that same talent. So some people inevitably will find other paths in their lives, but at least make sure that we have those in every single echelon of the organization, the operator's organization, and to be working together, to be communicating better. If a system does not allow that possibility of communication in a transparent way, it is not serving its purpose. It is true from that water balance spreadsheet as much as it is true with this platform that we have, and we've worked with the most advanced digital subroutines and programs that we have, and the collaboration with others in the industry and the software industry. But it is this transformation of making sure that we all work together and we interface with the industry in the proper way, and for their own benefit, is that we all gonna gain from. At the end of the day, I truly believe that is where society is going to, as long as we can keep it transparent. It's going to be a huge leap as long as we can keep it transparent.
Powerful words. Thanks for sharing them, Raf. And definitely, thank you as well. It's been a real joy working on the product so far. And yeah, my takeaway is that the industry has these problems, and these problems can be solved. And it's about time that they are solved. When we can solve it together, sure, it can solve it well and meet a genuine need for folks out there.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope it shared useful perspectives and sparked new ideas for advancing safety and sustainability in tailings management.